Hi, you're watching Current Issues. My name is Vineet Malhotra. The valley continues to simmer even as the delegation talks peace. The all-party delegation's visit in Kashmir was overtaken by few members of parliament who wanted to reach out to the separatist leaders. But the separatists showed them a cold shoulder. While Syed Ali Shah Gilani did not even let MPs inside his house, other leaders met them just to exchange pleasantries. On the program today, we ask whether this has been some sort of a new beginning or a wasted opportunity. Why is CM Mehbooba Mufti, who ordered the arrest of separatists, is now inviting them for talks, and whether keeping the separatists away from the Kashmir discourse is a good idea or not, because many stone pelters do not even agree to what the separatists have to say today. Perhaps the governments and parties have failed to acknowledge that there are other forces than the Hariyat at work. One of them being the invisible and malignant hand of our rogue and desperate neighbor, Pakistan. We'll talk to our guest about this raging issue today, but before that, let's take a look at this report.
Kashmiri separatist leaders on Sunday refused to talk to 5 opposition members of the all-party delegation, saying no such engagement was possible in prevailing circumstances, and it was time for them and others to read the writing on the wall. During the first day of its visit, the delegation met about 200 members in about 30 delegations from various sections of society. The 26-member delegation, headed by Home Minister Rajnath Singh, arrived here on a 2-day visit to meet and hold talks with individuals and political and other groups in an attempt to reach out to the people of the valley, which has been caught in worst crisis of many years in the aftermath of the killing of militant commander Burhan Wani 8 weeks ago. The most hostile reception was received by left leaders Sitaram Yechuri, D. Raja and Sharad Yadav, when nobody opened gate for about 10 minutes at the residence of veteran leader Syed Ali Shah Gilani. The trio Indian leaders were also greeted with pro-freedom and anti-India slogans at the residence of the House arrested leader. Before that, the 3 leaders had gone to visit Yasin Malik at a local police station where he was lodged, but Mr. Malik refused to talk to them. Asauddin Owaisi of AIMIM reached the Chashme Shahi guest house where Mirwais Umar Farooq and Shabbir Shah have been detained. The duo too refused to talk.
We decided to go and meet the leaders of the Hurriyat. The Hurriyat apparently had decided in a meeting of theirs that they will not conduct any talks with the Indian parliamentarians who come here and in this purpose. Well, they may have their point of view, but we met all of them. In fact, Yasin Malik. We went to Mr. Gilani, who in the last moment decided not to meet us.
परिस्थिति तनाव की बनी हुई है, उसको ईज करने के लिए एक पीस का वातावरण बने, शांति का वातावरण बने, इस प्रयास में पूरे देश भर में भी हम लोग लगे हुए हैं, पार्लियामेंट में भी लगे हुए हैं, और यहाँ जो आए थे उसका मतलब है इसी प्रयास में आए थे। हमारा मकसद है कि हम कोई बात करे ना करे, हम जरूर बात करने जाएंगे।
तमाम हालात को लेकर उन्होंने कहा कि मैं आपसे बात नहीं कर सकता, इसलिए कि उनकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने ये तय किया है कि वो किसी भी एमपी से बात नहीं करेंगे। मगर एक शुरुआत तो हुई है, अब हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि आगे गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया इस चीज़ को लेकर आगे बढ़ेगी, एक पॉलिटिकल डायलॉग होगा, एक पॉलिटिकल प्रोसेस स्टार्ट होगा।
The all-party delegation is in Srinagar to talk to different sections of people and try to restore peace in the Kashmir Valley, which has been rocked by protest since the killing of militant leader Burhan Wani in July. Violent clashes since then have caused over 70 deaths. In a separate appeal, the all-parties Hurriyat conference urged people not to engage with the delegation, calling it a meaningless exercise. Jammu and Kashmir CM Mehbooba Mufti told the delegation that Kashmir was an issue of national interest, which should not be viewed as a political issue. Team News World India.
Okay, let's straight away delve into this debate now. With me on the show is Mr. Tarek Fatah, right-hand columnist. Sir, thank you so much for joining us from all the way from Canada. Zafar Syed, spokesperson for the BJP. Sir, thank you so much for being here. Nasir Hussain, spokesperson for the Congress. Nasir Hussain, thank you so much for joining us. And Dr. Vinod Tikku, who's a Kashmiri Pandit, he's with me in the studio. Mr. Tarek Fatah, let's start with you if you can hear me, sir. Now, the Kashmir issue, sir, it has long been slated as a law and order issue, but the recent activities, the way the Hurriyat has been behaving, and the way the PDP leaders have thrown in their arms and their troubles in front of the BJP, it seems as to it's a political problem which the Prime Minister of India needs to solve, needs to have a narrative, needs to have a policy on at the soonest, because psychologically speaking, Pakistan is already creating some sort of a stronghold in this area.
I would suggest to you that, notwithstanding what you said, the real issue in Kashmir, in the valley, is the hold of contemporary Islamism on the mindset of the young people. This is beyond azadi, this is beyond autonomy or freedom or any of the words that were used so far in the last 60 years. This now is part of the worldwide phenomena of young people who are convinced, young Muslim men and women who are convinced that they have to create a caliphate. You heard the words of Burhan Wani himself, his last testimony, that it should overshadow not just India or Pakistan, but it should be a worldwide phenomena. So this is no longer an isolated case of a marginalized people seeking for more rights. You could send a dozen delegations, but the contempt that the Jamaat-e-Islami has for not just non-Muslims, but a vast majority of Muslims is now a fact. They've been in the corners for a long time, but now they are risen and they dominate the affairs. And very soon the same snakes will bite Pakistan as well.
Okay, let me get in Mr. Zafar Syed, spokesperson for the BJP. Mr. Syed, ever since the alliance between the PDP and the BJP, the people of Kashmir have been agitated. They do feel a little betrayed. That is the feeling that a lot of people get over there, that the PDP government has betrayed them by having an alliance with the BJP, but nobody said anything to that extent. Only after Burhan Wani's death did this anger come out. Did it, convert into something which is, out of even the Hurriyat's hands. How do you react to this, sir?
See, after the election, neither BJP nor PDP had got a mandate where they could have formed the government. Neither PJP on its own could have formed the government, nor BJP on its own could have formed the government. So it was a situation where both the parties, despite different ideological differences, had come to come on board to form the government in the only interest of the people of Valley, Jammu and Kashmir. See, as you know, that the state of Jammu and Kashmir is completely isolated from the development which is taking place in the rest of the country, and our honorable Prime Minister wanted that the Jammu and Kashmir should be integrated with the rest of the nation when it comes to the development, and that's when the government was formed with the minimum agenda between the two parties which had been agreed.
Right.
And the foremost agenda of the party was the two parties was to have a development in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, so that the youth who have been used to radicalize by the Pakistan, by agency ISI, or some of the enemies who are sitting in POK, they have been radicalizing the Kashmiri youth. So once they have the engagement, and they have job, they have development, they have a lot of things to do, then all these things these youths can be isolated from these enemies.
Okay, okay, sir. Let me come back to you, Mr. Zafar Syed. Let me come back to you. Let me also get in the spokesperson of the Congress Party, Mr. Nasir Hussain, into this. Mr. Nasir Hussain, Omar Abdullah recently tweeted, and he said that efforts like these, I'm quoting him, efforts like these have lost credibility. He's talking about the all-party delegation, as there was no follow-up to the previous ones. How do you react to that, sir? And let me also put in a joinder there. The previous effort was made in 2010 when your party was in power.
See, Mr. Omar Abdullah and the other politicians can have their own views. The Congress party is of the firm view that the Jammu and Kashmir problem is a problem relating to our country. Both the government and the opposition should work together on such issues, and especially on Kashmir and Pakistan. Indian National Congress has been continuously stating for the past 2 years that the government should take the opposition on board. We do welcome the government's attempt to have an all-party delegation to Kashmir.
Right.
In the past, it could have been futile. That doesn't mean we don't. It doesn't mean we don't go ahead with these.
But sir, what happened to the previous delegation, sir? What happened to the previous delegation, sir?
Reach out to the people.
What happened to the Salgaonkar
their
committee, sir?
different
What happened to
stakeholders?
the recommendations made by the Salgaonkar committee, sir? Nothing happened about that. There was no progress made on that note. Also, let me rope in Dr. Vinod Tikku, who's with us in the studio. He's a Kashmiri Pandit. Dr. Tikku, is it true, if I can, say it in one sentence, that the sooner we realize, that Kashmir is not an issue that you can put on a back burner, the better it is for the Indian government when it comes to dealing with the issue of Jammu and Kashmir?
Well, you have rightly said it. The government has been doing blunders and mistakes on Kashmir. You just now spoke of betrayal. Who was betrayed in Kashmir? It was not Muslim who was betrayed. It was a Kashmiri Pandit who ran shoulder to shoulder with Muslim brethren. But
Right.
they betrayed him. And it's on the other side is the government of India. They had to flee that place just because they were saying Hindustan, Zindabad or Bharat. So this issue has been pending there. It has not been taken care of. I think it is the time that government should take the measure. You see, complex problems need complex solutions. So if you look at the solutions, you have to have radical measures. You understand what is a radical measure?
Right. Okay, let me also, rope in Mr. Tarek Fatah again over here. Mr. Tarek Fatah, is it pertinent that, the government of India should have a narrative, they should have a policy that not only addresses, like you mentioned earlier, so that not only mentions the political problems in Kashmir, but the rising issue of Islamism in that particular part of our country? Is it about time?
Well, let me disagree with the notion that is very popular that development and jobs will eliminate extremism. In the United States of America and in Canada, where I live, most of the jihadis are some of the most well-off families. They're educated, they were born here, they drive BMWs, their homes are paid up, their parents are millionaires, and they go and fight the war with ISIS. Young women from Britain who were born over there of Bangladeshi, Indian and Pakistani origin have gone to Syria and Iraq to be sex slaves of jihadi fighters. This is an ideological war, and this will only be won if the Muslims of India in the rest take this upon them and attack that ideology. You simply cannot put a dividing line saying, well, that is Kashmiri Muslim and this is Indian Muslim. No. If you're a Muslim in Delhi or you're a Muslim in Chennai, it is your responsibility to say that in a secular, liberal, democratic state, the final authority is the Constitution. It is not the Gita, it cannot be the Quran. This has to be stated. If you don't do that, we are playing with fire right now, because this is out of the hands of the Hurriyat and PDP or the Pakistan occupied Kashmir fellows. The Pakistani ISI and the LET will do their part. They are feeding the fire, but the fire is elsewhere. The sooner Indians realize this is not about Kashmir, this is about an international movement of jihad by the Muslim Brotherhood, by Jamaat-e-Islami. The same people who kill in Dhaka are killing in Jammu Kashmir. The same guys who are trying to terrorize in Toronto, there were 18 Indian Pakistanis involved in the terror case, are the same guys who are fighting in Syria and Iraq. If we don't understand that, we will never come to the solution.
Absolutely. Zafar Sayed, Prime Minister Modi, he has an advantage. He's dealing with Kashmir with a clean slate. And if we talk about, some of the previous Congress Prime Minister, they were weighed down probably by the mistakes that their predecessors made. What different, moves can Prime Minister Modi make in order, to have an articulate law and articulate policy on Kashmir, so that this, the oldest issue which has been plaguing our mindsets, your mindset, should settle?
See, first of all, Mr. Tarek Fatah has the privilege to have his own views, but I may agree, I may disagree, or people may agree, may disagree, but there are problems which needs to be addressed. At least that much I can respond to his comments. Having said that, the approach we have for Kashmir, that there are two approaches. First, that we are trying our level best to bring normalcy in the valley, first. Secondly, that we need to understand the basic problem, and part of that problem can be addressed through development, and part of the problem can be addressed through negotiation and engagement of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Somehow we feel, and we are of the strong opinion, that those people who are actually want to disintegrate the Kashmir with the rest of India are the people we shall not engage, and be it Hurriyat, be it anybody, people only can be engaged, as Mr. Tarek Fatah was also mentioned, that who wants to work within the constitutional frameworks of India. And with that inputs in mind, we are engaging everyone and our doors are open. We want to engage everyone who wants peace. And let me tell you one more thing, that the Honorable Prime Minister has said very candidly that those youths who are dying there and who are injured are our own people. Those soldiers who are dying there are our own people. They're all Indians. Or even the policemen, those who are dying, are all Indians. So that we understand that's Indian who are dying. And all the people of Jammu and Kashmir are not in actually what Mr. Tarek Fatah was saying, that they don't have this kind of ideology. A handful of people, maybe 5% of Jammu and Kashmir, 5% of the population of Valley, maybe may share the views the Tarek Fatah, Mr. Tarek Fatah has just described. They may be radicalized, but those 5% can be dealt with, and we are dealing with those 5% and also trying to understand the resource which actually is giving the strength to these 5% people. Those sources we are trying to working on those to stop those sources. And
what are those sources, sir? What are those sources? We'll try and find out from Mr. Tarek Fatah. What are these invisible leaders? Who are these people who are trying to influence the youth of Kashmir, but they are not seen?
Let me just tell you what.
Well, I would say fundamentally the Jamaat-e-Islami.
If I can just say one more.
Okay, finish what. Go ahead, Mr. Syed. Go ahead.
All I was saying that this Hurriyat did not meet the people who went. The MPs went to meet them. Why? Because they do not have instruction from their masters across the border. So that shows that they are getting instruction from either likes of terrorists like Sayyid Salahuddin, or the Pakistani establishment, or the Pakistani-based terror organization, and that's why they didn't engage the MPs who went to meet them and knock their door. Yet they didn't meet them. That shows the fundamental problem, that the people of the Hurriyat do not want normalcy to come to Kashmir Valley, and it is more apparent purely because the call for a strike given by Hurriyat leaders have not been, they are still holding on. They should have first called off the strike if they were really sensitive and serious about the peace.
Mr. Zafar Sayed, a lot of separatists,
but they are not.
A lot of separatists also allege, that they have been detained, they are under house arrest, and yet they are being approached to strike a deal to come to terms and have peace in Kashmir. Isn't that counterproductive for the government, sir?
Not at all. See, these are all propaganda. Let me tell you that what is stopping them to call off their strike? If they are really concerned about the welfare of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, and particularly I'm talking about the valley, the first thing they could have done, they should have called off the strike. Second thing, they could have stopped those youths to go and pelt stones on the army personnel, because it is very damaging to those youths. Why are they going on the street and pelting stones? They should have been stopped. But they know that their sons and daughters are not involved here. It is the poor Kashmiris are involved and being paid by those Hurriyat leaders, and that's when they are on the street and they are.
Okay, let me get a viewpoint
and
from the Congress spokesperson as well, Mr. Nasir Hussain. Do you think
these poor Kashmiris do not have the leadership?
Mr. Nasir Hussain, sir, I'll come back to you. Sir, I'll come back to you. Mr. Zafar Syed, I'll come back to you. Sir, I'll come back to you. Mr. Nasir Hussain, do you think Mehbooba Mufti's blow hot, blow cold attitude towards the separatists is also another reason there seems to be about confusion about her role and her allegiance to the youth of Kashmir?
Before answering your question, I would like to react to what Mr. Tarek Fatah said. I don't think, I completely disagree with what Mr. Fatah said, because I don't think the Muslim in India are anyway connected, anyway inspired, anyway encouraged by the ISIS or the Al-Qaeda or the other groups. There could be very, very minuscule, not even 5% as Mr. Islam says, there could be less than 0.5%, or there could be a handful youngsters who are inspired by this ISIS. Otherwise, Indian Muslims by and large do not have a role, do not get inspired, are not encouraged by these kind of activities. Point number one. Point number two is relating ISIS with the Kashmiri youth. I think it is like pushing the youth and the Kashmiri people into such a situation where you brand the entire population of Kashmir as being on the side of ISIS and the likes of ISIS. I think we shouldn't compare these
two groups at all. Let Mr. Fatah respond to that. Let Mr. Fatah respond to that. Mr. Tarek Fatah respond to that.
I completely agree.
He's saying it's a delusion. It's an illusion.
Point number two. There is no
radicalization. There is no wave of Islamism.
You see, the conventional wisdom in India, which many of India's Muslim leaders repeat on and on, that Indians are not involved in ISIS. Indians are involved. The person who is the face of ISIS is an Indian Muslim. You think Zakir Naik's recruits from Kerala going over to fight there are not Indians, Indian Muslims? The guys who went from Mumbai to fight are not Indian Muslims? Of course, it's only 5%. But that 5% is everywhere in the world. It is that 5% that will bring everything down.
Okay.
Let me explain to you that Hurriyat is playing the role that Pakistan assigns it to.
I don't know what he is speaking.
Why? Don't you read what is written?
Recruiting people for the ISIS?
Pardon? Sorry? I didn't get what you said, sir.
Mr. Nasir Hussain, repeat your question to Mr. Tarek Fatah.
People for the ISIS?
Can you repeat the question?
I am asking, is Mr. Zakir Naik Zakir Naik recruiting people in ISIS?
Who else is recruiting
What nonsense are you speaking here?
You think Saudi Arabia is
what nonsense is there? Do you have any evidence for that?
Absolutely.
Anybody can fund anyone. But do you think he is recruiting people for the ISIS?
I cannot make a blind man watch color television. That's not my role. If you are blind to what's happening by Zakir Naik in India, are you absolving that man
Mr. Fateh,
of not being paid by the Saudi Arabia and the Gulf Arabs? Who else is recruiting ISIS? You think ISIS recruits came without any support from Turkey, Qatar and Saudi Arabia?
Okay, we'll come back to that topic, Dr. Tikku. You know, the question that I asked Mr. Tarek Fatah, I'm going to ask you as well, sir. Do you think it's time that Prime Minister Narendra Modi comes up with an articulate narrative on how to deal the Kashmir problem. He's been given a clean slate.
Yes, yes. You see, we should not now, this is not the time to look at the etiology or causes of the problem. We have to come to the solution, and solution will come from the nation only. So, what is the solution? Everybody says we should have a political solution. What is the political solution? Everybody will say, whether it is Umar Farooq or whether it is Mahbooba or any other person, we need a political solution. What is the political solution? So, political solution, is it that we offer this Kashmir on a platter to Pakistan? Is this the solution? Or somebody is asking, is the solution to have a pre-53 status? Then if you are asking for pre-53 status, why not have a 47
Dr.
status?
Tikku, a lot of people also allege that symbolically and psychologically, Pakistan has already started measuring up Kashmir. It's already started influencing the youth of Kashmir, and that is the reason the nature of the violence that we get to see in these agitations as compared to 2010 is a lot more ominous, is a lot more dangerous.
But what does that mean? That we should not go for solutions. So, we have to have solution to the problem. So, if they ask for a pre-53 status, why not have a pre-47 status? We have the living king here, Dr. Karan Singh is the living prince, why not have a pre-47 status? You see, this is the problem, is that the thing which suits them, they will accept it. Let them have a 53 status, pre-53 status. So, I had 500 canals of land there. So, why should not they restore back the...
What about the youth of Kashmir? Do you think it's their unhappiness, related to this alliance between the PDP and the BJP that is causing all this rift and problem?
You see,
Nothing to do.
Is the problem in Kashmir can be solved, 80% of the problem can be solved by development.
Okay, Mr. Fateh, I managed to amuse you, sir.
So I'm saying, without getting the Hindu pundits back into the valley, there can be no starting point. If the Indian government cannot get its own citizens where they were born and where they lived for 5,000 years, you're going to come to a solution? You need to be brave to do that. You cannot make refugees of Indians inside India. It's unheard of. I am sure that there is a solution. I am sure that people in India are better equipped than I am to suggest anything. But when I see that 500,000 people are uprooted from Jammu Kashmir and thrown out in refugee camps in a country that is 80 to 90% Hindu, what does it say? It's a secular country where wherever there's a Muslim majority, the Hindus will not be allowed to stay. This is being seen in some of the districts in Kerala. This is a big problem. I think Indian politicians are scared of talking the truth. And they are so worried that they will be called communalists that they never address the main issue. That some people have taken a veto position and said that we will not allow anything to happen till we have a stamp of authority. How dare does Mr. Jilani say that I will dictate what is going to happen? Take him in a bus, take him to the line of control and send him to Muzaffarabad. I would do that. Let Pakistan take care of Mr. Jilani and his Jamaat-e-Islami. It is the Jamaat-e-Islami that is the problem in India, Bangladesh and Pakistan. And nobody seems to take action against them.
Absolutely. So we need to rise above tokenism and the pseudo-bureaucracy that exists between political parties and work towards a formidable solution that will actually make the valley of Jammu and Kashmir a peaceful one for all ethnicities and diversities. That's all we have on our show. Thank you, Tarek Fateh. Thank you, Zafar Syed, Nasir Hussain and Dr. Vineet Malhotra. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. That is all we have on current issues. We'll see you tomorrow. Keep watching News World India. Thank you.
A virgin, Miss Arora.